Welcome back to the Dad Chronicle, where we share stories from dads all around the world. I'm your host, Alex Albisu. This is episode 139. On today's episode, I speak with a new dad, Josh Robinson. Josh and I have gotten to know each other over the last several years, and when he became a dad, I knew I wanted to sit down with him to get his perspective. And first, we talk about his and his wife's experience with IVF and how to create a sense of safety for your partner.
The nurse jabs herself in the belly and was like, "Here, Dad, you should do it too."
We talk about their eventful experience with his daughter's birth.
It's hard for me to forget some of those details.
It
It was quite the experience.
And finally, we talk about their decision to hire a nanny and how best to approach this sort of situation.
Some people were just like, "Yes, I've done that before." And even if I were like, "Well, can you tell me, a couple examples?" They're like, "Oh yeah, I've got good experience with that." So, okay, thanks. On to the next person.
Yeah. Here's my conversation with Josh Robinson. Josh Robinson, welcome to the Dad Chronicle. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. Fellow father here on the show, of course, but you are a new dad.
Indeed.
First of all, are you awake?
I am. No, sleep is, I don't want to brag, but it's not terrible at this moment.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good with that whole thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Before we jump into the whole family thing, why don't you introduce yourself to the world?
Yeah, Josh Robinson. I guess I can say I'm the proud dad of one Jovi and Rose Robinson, who joined the world just over 7 months ago. And excited to be here and chat about it.
I can't believe it's been 7 months.
I know. 6 months came up like a blink of an eye, and then all of a sudden we're feeding solid foods, and gosh, I can't imagine what comes next. So yeah,
solid foods, a whole lot of new poop smells, a whole lot of moving around, and it's a whole adventure. It started out as an adventure, and now it just keeps going.
Yeah, I every day I keep getting excited for her to start crawling, and we're waiting on that first word on the edge of our seats. But everyone keeps telling me you're excited for her to crawl now until she starts crawling. So I'm prepared for that. Well, I mean, you're never prepared, is what I think I've learned. But I at least am cognizant of it. I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, both of your lovely ladies are upstairs. Not just Jovi, but your wife, Allie. Now, the two of you have become very good friends of ours. We've loved getting to know you guys, watch you guys as you've been going through this journey. Before we really start talking about your experience as a dad, I thought it might be helpful to just introduce maybe how you and Allie met, because you guys, when I think of fun couples that we're friends with, you guys hit the top of the list as far as just really cool folks, really fun to hang out with, host the best parties. So, tell us a little bit about you guys.
You're too kind. That's well, first off, most of it's Allie, 90 to 95% of it. Allie and I actually met in 2012 at a Halloween bar crawl. So costumes have sort of been a part of it. We've had a lot of costume parties. We did a Harry Potter party a few years back. That was a big deal.
That was amazing.
Decked the whole house out. But we met at a Halloween bar crawl, kind of mutual friends. I used to live at a townhouse close to the Vienna Metro, and that was the jumping off point for a lot of people for reasons. And so we met there and have been together ever since. We got married in 2015, 2010. I'm totally October 10th, 2015. Met in 2012. My dates up. So, I'm already in the hole. So I've been married since October 10th, 2015, and yeah, it's been an adventure. Your words are way too kind, and sort of how fun we are. I don't know. Allie's very adventurous. She pushes me to new bounds, and dresses me up like Jack Sparrow for Halloween stuff like that. And we're always trying to find something new and adventurous. But I wouldn't say we're anything too crazy. So it's been.
This is coming from the guy who's like, I don't want to do anything crazy, but then we just adopted a whole bunch of ducks, and then we've got
Yeah, I guess I forgot about that part.
And,
it's an interesting story how we ended up with ducks. Allie always wanted to sort of redo our backyard, which started out as one big hill. And I was like, we can't do that. That's, this is too big of a project. It's just, maybe if we hit the lottery. And she was like, well, what if we put in some retaining walls here, we could probably get ducks. And she always knew that I kind of always wanted like chickens or ducks, but I kind of gravitated toward ducks, and she's very manipulative in that. It worked out. She knew what she was doing. And 2 years later of laying timber and doing my own retaining wall, now I have ducks. So that's how we ended up at that.
Congratulations.
The pigeons, I don't know. She came home with pigeons one day, literally in a box, and was like, "Hey, I got these 4 pigeons." And I was like, "Cool, let's add them to the mix." Heartbreaking keeping pigeons, let me tell you, because their nature's like little white morsel to all the predators in this area. Thankfully, they breed, so we have 3 pigeons. We started with 4. There's been some math that involved getting adding into subtracting to that number, but yeah. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. That's been an interesting journey.
Well, you went from marrying Allie, who's awesome, and then now adopting ducks and pigeons and all that stuff. You guys got a couple of dogs, so there's that. But then did any of that now prepare you for a child?
No. Yeah, I think I heard a long time ago when I was a kid, actually, like, you'll get a dog and that'll be like the first step on your way to children.
Yeah.
And then take that as far as I have heard at least one person tell me, oh, dogs are easier than kids, kids are easier than dogs, which I don't know, maybe things will change, but I think that's just totally ludicrous.
Yes.
So no, yeah, I guess we have been very animal oriented. We had 2 guinea pigs for a while. That was our first pets we ever had together. We've got the dogs, ducks, pigeons. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. Lots of wild animals around our house. But yeah, so there's animals have played a big part in our life. But no, even every different animal has a different aspect of like what it's like taking care of them. But nothing compares. There's nothing close.
That is crazy. Now you guys did go through IVF to get to this point. How long were you guys doing IVF for?
We did IVF for 3 years. It was a long, long journey. We did across that 3 rounds, and it kind of got stretched out for a couple, variety of reasons. But yeah, we thought we were going to be pretty quick because we got into it. We did the first round, and for anyone familiar with IVF, like we got 19, I guess, embryos or eggs from the retrieval, which is like a ridiculously high number. And we were like, oh, wow, we're one and done. We were like so excited. It was going to be so quick.
Yeah.
We went from 19 down to 1 healthy embryo at the end of all that. And so that was like kind of a bummer, and things, stretched out. And we did have 1 unsuccessful transfer mixed in there. But yeah, at the end of it all, 3 years later, we ended up with a beautiful baby girl. So we're still excited.
Here you are. That's incredible. Now I know that, IVF, obviously it's a huge toll on the female partner in this case, right? What were some of the things that you felt were important to maybe enact and just live by as you were trying to support Allie through that, trying to also keep your own sanity through all that? Because you're right, it is a long journey. It's a tough one. Do you have any suggestions to folks maybe listening who are thinking like, man, that's a tough thing. I'm scared to do it, or I'm in the midst of it. And how do I see the light at the end of this tunnel? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah. Allie is terrified of needles, and we knew there were shots involved. And I feel so ignorant even admitting this, but we had no idea that we had to be doing shots every day and doing them ourselves. I thought this was you go to the lots of doctor's office visits. Yeah, there's going to be shots. No, it's like they go in and like literally as they're instructing us how we're going to administer the meds on our first day, the nurse like jabs herself in the belly and was like, "Here, Dad, you should do it too." And I was so thrown off, and they had Allie do it. Admittedly, I didn't do it. I was just, and I'm not afraid of needles, but I just was so shocked that the nurse just like sticks a needle into her belly. It's like, just like this.
Hey, man. Wow.
And, just to prepare us. But I guess what I would say is creating a routine. What we did every night, and we were constantly sort of coming up with new ways to keep Allie, I don't want to say distracted, but, focused on the mission. We listened to the Hamilton soundtrack at the start of every night. That was like our, we know at certain songs, it's like we'd hit certain parts in the routine. and it was just it added a little bit of levity, you know. So you especially get to like the king's I don't know, speech or verse where he's doing, you know, you'll be back. It just brings a little levity, and there's a lot of. I also would, to the best of my ability, you can only do this for so long and be successful with it. But I'd stash like little stuffed animals around like the kitchen, and pull them out at random times, and like, you know, pull them into the mix and try to get, you know, Allie laughing, just to distract her a little bit, because she really doesn't like shots, and we had to do a whole lot of shots.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say creating a routine and just finding those little things that can, you know, bring levity to a situation that isn't the most fun to be in.
Yeah, that's just a remarkable idea, that some of the little ways that you can, I don't know, you're right. Like, it's not distracting, but like to create that sense of levity is really, really is a great idea, especially in situations where you have a partner that's nervous or is just apprehensive about the process in general. It doesn't even have to be the needles, but how do you create a deeper partnership through that and show that you have their back? I think that's a really good example.
And just to flip it on its head, at one point, like, you know, I didn't get nervous about needles. In the first round, Allie actually passed out.
No way.
We switched to, it was like the last medication is called the trigger shot. She took the shot and she started saying like, I'm really hot. And, you know, I don't feel right. She like ripped her shirt off and was like, I don't feel right. And then she face planted on the kitchen table.
Oh my God.
And I called 911. Because we'd, you know, done all these medications. This was a new medication. I'm like, oh my God, she's having an allergic reaction to this medication. Call 911. Like, the whole fire brigade shows up, storms into the house, and I'm freaking out. Now, granted, she was out for probably about like 20-ish seconds. Still. And then like woke up, and she was trying to tell me, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. And I was like, you don't realize, like, you were out, like what just happened. Like, you weren't conscious for me calling 911. So everything's not fine. And by the way, they're coming, and we can't stop them at this point.
Yeah. And better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Like, yeah, you might have just fainted, but was there some other adverse reaction? Like, I totally get it. Yeah. It's not overreacting by any stretch.
And like I don't know, it's funny now, but like, I generally am pretty calm under pressure.
Yeah.
They got there and they just wanted her ID. And I don't know where my wife last put her wallet or ID down. So I'm like, I know what to do. I know where her passport is. I'm going to go get her passport. We have like a little fire safe that we keep like documents like that in. And I get like this ring of keys that for some reason has like, you know, 30 keys on it. And there's only like 2 that I use. And my hands are like shaking from adrenaline, and I could not get the safe open. I'm in like the closet where that thing is, and I'm trying to get the safe open. And I realize I've spent like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Like, okay, I'm spending too much time. And I run back downstairs. They're like, yeah, where have you been? We've been trying to find you. And her wallet was sitting on the kitchen table next to her. So it's like, I'm running around literally like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to find identification. They had it the whole time.
Wow.
Wow. So, yeah, it's fun times. You know, everything was good. Turns out, by the way, the whole thing was, she is obviously very nervous about needles, and we had sort of dodged it, and even through all the different cycles, so this never happened again. But it was just a nervous system. Like, we did it at a different time of day. Maybe she hadn't yet eaten yet. I think it was a morning shot. Mm-hmm. And like her nervous system was like, nope, and just shut down, and she passed out.
And you know, like, you might be, like you haven't put anything in your stomach. I remember Deanna passing out. This was, I mean, when we had our miscarriage and we went to the doctor and they had to draw blood and stuff. I mean, like, I was terrified too. I was like, oh my God, is she going to be okay? Is she going to be okay? And the same thing, is like 10, 20 seconds and you don't know what happened or anything. It's a very reasonable reaction to just freak out as their partner, you know.
Sticking a needle in their vein and she hits face plants on the table. I didn't know what else to do.
That's fair. Fair to freak out, but also to do the right thing and call 911. I think that's valid. So it's
also like PSA. You know, one thing we learned that day is that this might be obvious to everybody, but your tax dollars pay for that.
Yeah,
and that's totally free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you get an ambulance like that, then the insurance gets involved. And, calling 911 and having like fire trucks and EMS and everything, those people show up, that's you pay for that with your tax dollars. I wouldn't recommend doing it on the regular, but there's like no charge for that. I was totally blown away. It was like, you know, they brought in all this equipment, they're checking her out, make sure she's safe and okay. And I'm like, God, what is this going to cost? I'm like, oh no, it's nothing. I'm like, oh, right. That's, it kind of makes sense how that works.
Yeah. So don't
Don't hesitate.
Hesitate.
Yeah, exactly.
Bingo. Yeah. Do what's right for you and your partner and the right, thing for your kids and so on. Now, speaking of kids, here we are on the other end of that.
Yeah.
First question, and I can't remember if we talked about this, but I mean, you were in the room for the pregnancy or for the birth,
Yes.
right?
All 32 hours of it. 32. I don't know. I'm making that number up, but we were at the hospital for a long time.
Do you remember those moments, or has it all just kind of washed away as like an
No, you can't
amalgam
wash
of-
that away. No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's all there. We went in, we decided to do induction because I guess because it was an IVF pregnancy, for whatever reason, I don't remember at this point, they don't like you to go too far beyond your due date. And so we had an induction, and I think Allie, looking back now, would say she wished she didn't do an induction because she doesn't think maybe things were quite ready. So they kept pushing more, Pitocin, I think it's called, to try to induce.
Yep.
But then Jovi's heart rate would drop. So they had to back it off. So we were on this, give a little more heart rate drops, give a little more heart drops. And it just went on and on and on. And the epidural was wearing off. So they had to push another round of it, this whole thing. It was a really long drawn out process that finally, they just sort of, when they said, we're ready to start pushing, then that went the full 4 hours too, which became a whole stressing point because they told Allie, which I know how her brain works. They're like, oh, well, you can only push for 4 hours. And so from minute one, she's thinking I have 3 hours and 59 minutes. I know. So that was she was stressing about that.
Yeah.
And so of course, at 3 hours, she's like, I only have 1 hour left. And they're like, don't be thinking about that right now. It went the full time, and we did what was called the vacuum assist. So they helped get Jovi out because she came out sunny side up, as Allie likes to say.
Yeah.
So face up, and she was really struggling with the final mile. And there are some other complications from it. I don't want to say complications, but a little bit so Jovi had what was called a 2-vessel cord. Meaning that her umbilical cord was missing. I think there were supposed to be 2 arteries, and she only had 1, which is it's not terribly rare, but something that we were keeping an eye on. And I don't know if it's related or not, but when she was born, her umbilical cord broke, which I think that explains what, at least to me in my data set of 1, would be more blood than I was expecting. It's hard for me to forget some of those details. It was quite the experience.
And I'm sure that to your point, it's new because I mean, you've never been through this before. You're a first time dad, and seeing that, I guess you're not really sure what to look for. Were you north of the border or south of the border? Did you watch the whole thing happen?
So I wasn't sure how. A friend of mine that I used to work with said that he had 3 kids, and I think on his second, he took a peek. Beyond the curtain, and then hit the floor. He passed out.
God, okay.
And they're like, "Thanks, Dad, you're not being helpful." So I was mindful of that. I'm not a queasy person, or I don't have issues with blood.
Yeah.
But you never know. It's
You
a crazy.
never know.
Your heart's beating. It's it's very, very intense. So I was helping. I was holding her legs.
Yeah.
One of them, and so I was sort of helping with that aspect of it. And then what happened after she was born. So basically, this is a long way of saying I didn't start out south of the border, but I ended up in there because some things happened with the cord, and then we later found out Allie they didn't know this at the time, but a partially retained placenta. And so when I said there's a lot of blood, there was a lot of blood, and they, in addition to the usual tearing and whatnot, so they had some things that they were addressing quickly. And so we had our plan of oh, Allie's going to hold Jovi. It's a golden hour. And they're like, no, Dad, you need to take the baby and go over there. We have some things we need to do, which threw us both off because 100% I was doing it. But I turned back to see what was going on. And I had a moment where I said, we're about to see how I respond to this, because I just saw something that I wasn't prepared for. And I seemed to do okay. I was like, okay, I can handle this now.
Yeah.
And turned back around and, participated in correctly guessing the exact weight of Jovi.
You nailed it?
They were like, guess the weight, Dad, guess the weight. I was like, 7 pounds, 8 ounces. I'm like, 7 pounds, 8 ounces.
Really?
On the dot. So,
My kids were way heavier than I expected them to be. I was like, oh, like probably like around 8 pounds. They're like, no, like 9. And
oh boy.
then so I was, oh man, that's incredible that you were able to at least witness some of that. What is what I like to call a beautiful mess of an
Yeah.
experience, which is childbirth. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's important. You know, I would encourage partners to watch your partner give birth if you can. If you know, like you can stand that and they're comfortable with all of this, of course, it puts into perspective what labor really means.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable what women are able to do. And, you're now, let's see, about 7 months in. How are you feeling?
Gosh, it feels like things, are a little stable right now. One of the common threads of advice was just as soon as you think you got it, things change.
Bingo.
And we've experienced that for sure many times over at this point. So I think we're in one of those, like, things are okay right now ish. I mean, we have our struggles. She like just last night slept almost consistently, like through the night, like nearly 12 hours. That's like fantastic.
That's incredible. Were you guys doing anything different?
That's $1 million question,
Bingo.
right?
Isn't that crazy?
What did we do? And I was trying to suggest some things, and since I'm back at work full time, Allie's been primarily manning the overnights right now. So I'm kind of like, I only have so much ground to stand on of like, this happened. She's like, you don't really know the full story. I was up dealing with this. So, I try to be as helpful as I can, but she's in the trenches more than I am right now. So when I also say like things are stable, maybe she would take a different, stance on that. Cause she's still fighting through the, like, randomly, baby will sleep 12 hours, but then she'll wake up at 2 a.m, 4 a.m, 3 a.m. So just dealing with I'm sure the same stuff everyone deals with.
Yeah, it is. It is. You find your rhythm and then it's gone.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is. And one of the things that we wanted to bring to this conversation that you guys are exploring is the topic of a nanny, a caretaker, somebody that can help you guys out with Jovi and the various things that you guys have going on in your lives. You both are very busy with a lot of things going on. Can you talk to us about, first of all, your decision to try to find a nanny? Like, what kind of inspired that? What sort of qualifications maybe you look for specifically? And then maybe just what are the overall, process? I don't know. Like how do you go about that in case there are people out there listening who are like, yeah, I need that in my life.
Yeah. Well, so Allie's an artist, so full time, she owns her own business, and we found difficult to be an artist and paint a painting 30 minutes at a time. Yeah.
And she's got a lot of clientele and
so if anyone listening is in the Northern Virginia area, she did the Occoquan mural, that's right in downtown Occoquan on a big sort of retaining wall right out near the waterfront there.
Aria, we drive by it and Aria's like, hey, I know who did that.
It's fun. So that's like, great. Big one to see, but she does a lot of portraits, and she started out a lot of pet portraits. There's a lot of people that really want their pets painted, and we have some of our own pets, so I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does, commission work and all that, but she's busy. And, given that she owns her own business and it's, she's a full-time artist, we went into this knowing that we would hopefully have the flexibility to her be at home most of the time, and taking on the basically stay-at-home mom responsibilities while also being able to chip away at her her artwork. That's proven, I think, more difficult than we anticipated.
Yeah.
She said to me that the other day before we launched into the decision to look at it's a part-time nanny, but it's really difficult to paint a painting 30 minutes at a time, which totally resonates with me. It's like, I get it. Like,
I mean, it takes 20 minutes to even get into the rhythm of something, and then
let alone like cleaning brushes and taking after oil paints and whatnot. It's in worse yet, even trying to plan a painting and open that, like, unlock that creative part of your mind when you're like in between like nap cycles and wake windows and things like that. So we ultimately decided we wanted to try some sort of part-term care. We looked at maybe daycare, and just with where we live, like location wise, there wasn't a lot like super close to us that we were like feeling super jazzed about. Like there's some options. So just Googling around, like, what do other people do? The primary options are like daycare, like home daycares, going to someone's house that runs it. au pairs, having someone stay at your house that
like a
typically
live-in nanny.
live-in nanny, and then like nannies and babysitters, where I would just distinguish nannies from babysitters, as nanny is like a recurring full-time, like they're there on a regular basis, versus a babysitter is like more of a ad hoc, you're scheduling someone to come take care of your kid. So we discovered care.com, like no endorsement here, but like that was where we ended up finding ourselves, spending the bulk of our time looking and just figuring out how to use it, like understanding how people have used it before. There's like nanny agencies that you can go through.
Yeah.
They're pretty expensive. And I think the like summary I heard is you can go through an agency and you're probably going to get a pretty good nanny, or you can like maybe put in a little extra legwork on your own and go through something like care.com, which is what we did. So I put out a rec on care.com. I was like, hey, I'm looking for someone like 3 days a week, part-time, same, recurring schedule. So it's like, we said, we think we want 18 hours a week, like 6 hours, 3 days a week.
Sure.
And I got 29 applicants.
Wow.
Like within the first 3 days. So of those, I like, I'm obviously looking through their profiles, trying to see their experience. Biggest to me was like reviews that other people have.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then of those, I contacted about half of them, and said, hey, would love to, have a quick phone call with you. Phone screened, just under 10. I think I did 8 or 9 phone screens. And this is where I was like telling some of my friends that I've worked with in the past. So I previously worked at SpaceX, and I was like, I'm applying the SpaceX interview process to finding a nanny, because there's like this many tiers of like, I joked, I was like, we would do mock calls.
Right.
And SpaceX interviews are brutal. And to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I could get through this process. Like, it's really, really tough. And so I wasn't going like full on.
You weren't going full on SpaceX.
Yeah. I told my friends that I was I was role playing the chief diaper officer. That didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
But I did do phone screens, and I would have like a 15-minute call just to like, get a little sense of is what the person put on their like resume or, their profile, does it kind of pass the smell test? Like if you ask them questions about their experience and they just give you quick, like, oh yeah, I did that, versus being able to actually talk about it.
Right.
And then just, kind of a just overall vibe. Like, do I feel like I'm going to get along with this person? Do I feel like I want them taking care of Jovi? Anyway, from there, we picked our top 3. And made offers to do like a trial session. It was just like, hey, we're going to pay you, come to the house, spend some time with Jovi. And then we made our number one, our top pick offer, and she just accepted just the other day. So
hey, congrats.
We've got our part-time nanny kicking off next week. We're excited.
Hey, that's exciting. So care.com is a pretty well-known one. You mentioned some agencies. Were there other services that you had considered looking at? Like, do you know of any other services out there? And then is there a reason that you chose care.com maybe over a different service?
I mean, our biggest alternative to care.com, there's another version of care.com that's really similar. I think it's Sitter City, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to just put my eggs in one basket versus the other, that route. And then, like I said, we kind of like dug into the daycares, and we were admittedly pretty stingy on location.
Yeah.
I was like, if we're going to do a daycare, I want it to be pretty much not more than 15. If it was really great, like 20 minutes from the house.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Because there were some that we saw that I was like, these look great, but I can't fathom like putting a 45 minute like round trip to get Jovi from day. I mean, obviously people do it, and I totally understand that. But for our situation, part-time, 18 hours a week, that's a lot to like kind of throw in the mix. So that was ultimately one of the big deciding factors for us about like trying to go the part-time nanny route.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about some of the qualities in the nanny that you had picked, and I'm sure people are out there thinking like, what sort of thing should I be looking for? Outside of just like, can they get along with my daughter? Like, what were some other maybe factors that you were considering through the process?
So, CPR certified.
Yeah.
Obviously, having experience as a nanny is a huge plus. So most of the candidates we've talked to were prior nannies or au pairs. Our nanny right now actually she moved to the U.S. as an au pair and then became a full-time nanny and has moved around as a full-time nanny for other families in this area. It was a small thing, but I thought it was great. So she's bilingual. She also speaks Spanish and speaks perfect English, but also speaks great Spanish, and is excited to speak Spanish to Jovi. So I thought that was a fun. That was just a fun little thing on the side. But
Heck yeah.
The biggest things is like, have you been a nanny before? And then drilling down, not just being a nanny, but like I had a list of like really simple questions, like, hey, have you bottle fed a baby? Like that's like off the top. If you can't answer that question well, I probably don't need to ask you the rest of the questions. But like, okay, if you just say yes, sure. But like, can you talk me through like how you would sanitize bottles? Like, have you worked with breast milk before? Have you only worked with formula? Like, just how do you treat that? And even just answering that question, it's a super simple question, but how people answer that question gives me a really good read on like what I actually feel about their experience. And, like I said, some people were just like, yes, I've done that before. And even if I were like, well, can you tell me, a couple examples? They're like, oh yeah, I've got good experience with that. So, okay, thanks. On to the next person.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that.
It's I think a lot about just when you're interviewing at work, or even if you're interviewing anybody for a position, or if you yourself are interviewing at a company, you always want to look out for the open-ended questions. Like those are the ones where you got to dig deep, and I would imagine that that's the same principle here. It's not just like, hey, have you bottle fed before? It's like, talk to me about your experience bottle feeding a baby and using formula versus, breast milk or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So those are really valid ideas. And folks at home, I hope that is helpful if you're thinking about this for you and your children, some of the things to look for. I do want to shift a little bit, thinking about your experience now as a dad. This has been a long road coming, like you talked about. I mean, at least a few years, if not, longer than that, when you and Allie are talking about like, hey, what can we, like when are we going to have kids and some of that stuff. Now that you're on this side of the fence, what is fatherhood like to you?
Gosh, well, it's a full-time gig.
It is. Oh yeah.
That's it's never not going on. I think it's these lots of moments of kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say monotonous, but it is, monotonous tasks, particularly in the beginning of, just feeding, changing diapers, like making sure they're sleeping, like, just that cycle. Lots of this, like, overall caretaking interspersed with these little moments that you just have never experienced before and kind of take your breath away. So Allie was at a portrait conference a few weeks back, and I was doing my first full-time through the night all by myself for more than 24 hours. I did 5 days solo parenting for the first time.
Wow, at that age, that's
it was it was thrown into the fire. Thankfully, it went pretty well. Nothing went terribly wrong. She came out, I was saying, with all her fingers and toes still attached. So I'll count it a success. But one thing that I really hadn't had happen to me is you sometimes you wake her up. It's just you go and it's nothing special. Sometimes she's waiting for you, and the moment when I come in there and she's just kind of got her hands together and clasped together, and she's already smiling because she's excited and she knows I'm coming. And part of that is like, that's a newer thing too. It's not something she was obviously doing when she was 1 month old. And I hadn't experienced that yet until I did that stretch, a few weeks back. And it's just like, I stopped dead in my tracks. I was walking to get her. It was like dark. I had the light on dim, and I just see her eyes and like her cheeks, like she's smiling and just holding her hands together. Like, I'm ready. It was amazing. So I would say for me, it's just finding those little moments interspersed with the rest of the day to day that, we all know is there. But I'm excited to, for that next little moment that I don't know exists yet, and, discovering it. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. And that resonates a lot with me in my experience. It's kind of those one little beautiful moment after another, and they just compound, and those become the memories of parenthood. And thinking about where you come from, we were not going to use the M word in this house, but you are from...
Oh,
I'll say it because we have a worldly audience. Michigan.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's all good.
We always joke because Josh went to Michigan, and we're big Ohio State fans. So I hope you're not burning with your arm
Oh
next
gosh,
to
I
that
didn't
Ohio
even
State
realize.
blanket
I got
sitting
my
next to you,
hand
but
laying on an Ohio State blanket here.
it's so much more comfortable than anything else, I'm sure. But you come from Michigan, and your parents are still up there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I always like to just check in with dads about their experience with their parents, especially their own father or whoever the prime figures, whoever in their life. Like, what sort of nods to parenting, especially fatherhood, have you gotten from your own parents?
It's interesting. Given that they're further away, I think there's less opportunity for that. Although
Yeah.
we've had them down to see Jovi a handful of times now, including here just recently. And especially now that we're opening up a little bit too, it's like, here, take her. As opposed to the beginning, it's like, yeah, you can come say hi to her, that kind of thing. Although my mom is and was a nurse, so we were like have a little bit more of a like, okay, we trust you a little bit more. I think we have a high bar, or had a high bar in the beginning of like, who can hold the Jovi, who can, that kind of thing. But I think it's interesting the conversations we have, and I can't think of any good examples right now, but just how different things are for us as they were. I was born in the 80s and things were different back then.
Oh yeah.
And I think probably most jarring, I'm trying to think of a good example, talking to my mom again as a nurse, and she was a pediatric nurse too. Now she's in administration, but like where she would say something and I'd be like, well, I read that this is, and like, oh, it's like the standard has shifted so much from what she was locked into from when we were kids. A small one would be like, this is like nothing. Well, it is big, but talking about like car seats and stuff, which are just a world apart from
very different from
what they looked like in the 80s.
Oh my gosh, so different.
Yeah. So I think it's been interesting to like have that conversation with them about like things that have changed and things that they did. Like I think, I don't remember if it was my mom that said, never wake a sleeping baby. And we're like, well, the doctor says we have to wake her to feed her every 2 to 3 hours. And then my mom was like, no, don't never wake a sleeping baby. And I was like, well, we're going to listen to the doctor, Mom. I appreciate that. I think that potentially, I don't know, I think was a little bit different mentality back when we were kids. So yeah, it's just been, I would say fun, interesting, and obviously we're always open. Anyone that's got advice, whether they raised kids in the 50s, the 80s, or, 2 days ago, like we're open to anyone's tips and tricks as we try to navigate this. But most of it has been the kind of curiosity of hearing what was different for us back then.
It's a very interesting difference. Like the car seat thing is very big. I also remember, who were we talking? I was talking to somebody, but the thing that you prominently hear as well is deli meat. Like our parents were eating freaking like deli ham and pastrami or like whatever pastrami is probably not a good one because it's cooked, but you know what I mean. It's like,
for sure.
And I'm pretty sure we turned out okay. I think I don't know.
Well, jury's still out. But
Jury's still out. We'll
see.
Yeah. Millennials are an interesting generation. When you think about your own father, what sort of ways do you maybe look back at your experience growing up and think about, oh man, I'm becoming my dad a little bit?
Well, the part that I look at there is that my older brother, who's 4 years older, but got married much younger than I did and had kids shortly after marriage. So I have nephews, and we have Jovi, who's 7 months old, but I have nephews who are now 13 and 11. So like we've kind of seen like my brother go through the journey, and now a decade later we're going through the journey. And I think my brother's kind of, I'm like, oh God, he's becoming my dad more than I think I am yet. But there's still plenty of time. My dad is kind of a sort of an OCD person. He's very like clean oriented. Everything needs to be clean. Like there was a little bit of a military mindset. He used to say, we need to bounce a quarter off your bed, like if it's made right, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
He was joking most of the time, but he is very like neat and organized, and so I see that as the chaos. Joey's just like, she can't really create much more chaos than is contained in her diaper at the moment, but I know it's coming. I can see it already. Like, with some of our friends, obviously, that have kids, what we're prepared for the just I don't know, apocalypse that will set in on the house. And I can see now some of the way he responded and trying to keep things neat and organized. He used to tell me when he'd walk into my room, like, I don't know how you even get to the closet. There's no place to, step in here. I'm not ready for that, but I know it's coming.
Yeah, you think about all the things, man, I'm not going to do that. And then all of a sudden, oh, crap, here we are.
Indeed.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, you're doing a bang-up job
I appreciate
as a
that.
dad in these 7 months. It's been an absolute privilege to watch you and Allie do what you do. And baby Jovi's going to be a wonderful human being. She already is. You've gotten to know her over these last 7 months. I'm curious from your perspective, because we play D&D together.
Yeah.
If she was to be a D&D class,
Oh, no.
what do you think that she would be?
Now I'm gonna show my novice side of D&D. When we say class, can
Like
you give me an
druid
example?
or a fighter? Or...
Yeah, I think she's got some bard in her. I
Yeah.
think apple doesn't fall far from Theric the Great's tree. From,
that's Allie's character.
Allie's D&D character. Yeah, just that sparkle in her eye. I think that she could. Wow a room with her voice and or, use her charisma to get out of just about anything.
That little look when she was upstairs and I said hi to her, and that sparkle in her eye and that little smile, it's like, oh, she's going to melt some hearts. She already is.
Yeah. And, music has been a big part of, not to deviate too much, but music has been a big part of her life already. One of the kind of fun routines that I've gotten into, is most nights when I get home from work, we have what we call karaoke time. So I put some music on YouTube and, we sing along, quote unquote.
Yeah.
She's just on my hip on we have these I don't know, it's a belt with a little seat on it that she sits on my hip because it saves my back as the 37-year-old, soon to be 37-year-old
bumpy
man.
or something like that. I know what you're talking about.
So we sing every night. And we have played guitar with her a few times now. I taught her we have a djembe, which is a similar to a bongo, a hand drum that we have. And I played that with her. I've played piano with her now. So she's heard me do my first rendition of Piano Man, which we'll hear many more of. That's my go-to, when I just sit down at the piano, but,
she's going to be going to prom and be like, Dad, stop, Dad.
Yeah. So, music's a big part. So, bard for sure.
Oh, I love that answer. Yeah, you guys are very musically talented as well, and that is always fun, sharing some of those passions with your kid. And as we think about kind of wrapping up the episode and just some of the experiences that you've had over these last 7 months, and even thinking about where you were coming from, going through the journey through IVF, through where you are today. And we have other dads and parents just in general listening to this show. What sort of words of wisdom would you give to anybody who might be in your shoes and similar shoes to yours, or maybe starting out as a parent, not too far behind you?
I would just say that I've, again, been amazed at how those little moments can kind of take your breath away and stop you in your tracks. And everyone has moments of frustration and exhaustion. I can remember from the first couple weeks when we really hadn't slept, and I'm just so frustrated, carrying this baby around, rocking her, please fall asleep, and I'm losing my mind. I actually look back on those times now with a really fondness. Oddly, I don't fully understand why that is, because it was objectively miserable, but I'm it's really romanticized in my head. But when you're going through those times when you are frustrated, and I'm sure I have many more to experience myself that I don't yet know about yet, looking to know that there's those little moments of joy and just new discovery, that knowing that one of those is just around the corner, I think that, it can maybe help get through whatever it is that you're going through at that moment, knowing that that it's going to happen soon, that next one.
Yeah. It's all about that journey, man. Embrace the journey, embrace the discomfort that comes along with learning everything that there is to learn about being a parent. It is, that really resonates. And you're right. You are going to think oh man, I got to get away from all these late nights and all that sort of stuff. There is a fondness to it. No, you're not wrong.
Don't get it, but I don't understand it, but it's for whatever reason, that's how it seems to be.
It is. Well, again, our guest has been Josh Robinson. Josh, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Me, Alex. This has been so much fun.
Thank you again to Josh for sharing your perspective and your experience. And congrats again to you and Allie. I can't wait to see the amazing person that baby Jovi becomes with your all's fantastic guidance. And if you'd like to chime in on today's episode, you can share any of your thoughts by emailing the Dad Chronicle podcast at gmail.com. And if you'd like to support what we're doing here, head over to supportadad.com. And a reminder, if you want to listen to other episodes, you can always visit our website, thedadchronicle.com. Remember, be good to yourself and be good to others out there. We'll see you next time.
If you like this show, check out more great content at incastmedianetwork.com.